Hey man,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining the call. I
Yeah,
apologize.
sure.
I was planning on being in the studio today, and I was ended up being out on the road, and so I'll be doing this interview like in my car. But
No worries.
uh, if that's cool with you, it's cool with me. So
For sure. For sure.
awesome, man. Well, thanks again. First of all, I just want to give you a little background.
Sure.
What the main purpose, for us, obviously we want to know more about you and get to know you well, but a lot of who will see this interview is like ultra beginner musicians,
Mm,
who might not have even started playing yet, and are thinking about becoming a musician, or what things are important in that sense. So that's kind of like where some of these questions will stem from,
okay.
just so you know. And so, just kind of going off of that. But again, thanks again. I'm Joshua, and I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much.
Cool. Nice to meet you, Joshua.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. So let's just start like at the beginning, man.
Okay.
What was it that made you like go from I want to play music to now I have an instrument in my hands and I'm playing it, and kind of when was that in when was that in your life,
Yeah.
and kind of what made that happen for you?
Right. Yeah, I have two versions of this story actually. So
Okay.
there's like early childhood version, like what actually got me playing music, and then there's like the
Mm-hmm.
adult version of what made me do it professionally, like as a living, as a career. Um, So as a child, my parents took me to do piano lessons, and I was actually really shy as a kid. So I went to these piano lessons, and I hated it. I didn't say a word to the teacher, and it was just like it was very traumatizing.
Sure.
But we had a piano at our home, and so
Mm-hmm.
I held on to like the books from the classes, and I just started teaching myself and learning like
Yo.
independently, without like a teacher and without that kind of like classroom setting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I started doing it that way, and I was able to just kind of play at my own pace and learn at my own pace and all that kind of stuff, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to talk to anyone,
Yeah.
um, that's when I started flourishing, and that's when I started, playing regular every day. I would sit down at the piano, and it became like a comfort, like a comfort zone, like a
Mm-hmm.
healthy space for me to just like play and express myself. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
kind of how it all started, and then I just fell in
Mm-hmm.
love with music in general, and I played. I have like this. I just love learning new instruments. So
Mm.
my party fact, my fun fact that I always bring up is I play 27 instruments. Um,
Holy
yeah,
moly.
so I'm just always trying to like learn new instruments and hear new music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I studied it in university. I studied music. And then after university, I did a year at Apple, just working like retail.
No
And
doubt.
after a year there, I was like, nah, I can't do this for a living. So I just went
Yep.
music full time. And yeah, here I am.
Wow. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so let's talk about like ages a little bit, if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure.
So like when what age was it that you started teaching yourself piano and kind of like left the piano teacher?
8 years old. 8 years old.
8 years old.
Yeah.
And see, to me that like shows a lot of just I mean, more than passion really. It's like innate almost. It's almost like
Yeah.
intuitive, where like you just almost have to do it. You're just so interested that like you have to figure it out, kind of,
Totally.
you know.
Totally. Yeah.
So oh man, I get that. I started on piano as well, and
Mm,
same kind of situation. Like I had piano teachers that just didn't get it,
mm.
like they technically they understood what to say and what to do, but the connection wasn't there, or they didn't understand the kind of music that I wanted to play or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I just ended up leaving lessons. So I
Yeah.
get that.
I relate to
So
that.
then
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
8 years old, you start teaching yourself piano, and then you play piano all through, high school. So when you go to university, what did you study?
So so actually I started out studying euphonium performance. Um
Okay.
Euphonium is like the most random instrument ever, but it's basically like a baby tuba. Um, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, so I started playing that in grade 8 or grade 7, and I got like really good really quickly at that. So then when I was applying to universities, I was like, okay, well,
It's
I
like
mean,
instant
I could,
scholarship.
yeah, exactly. And I wanted to go to U of T, and they offered me like a full scholarship for euphonium performance. So I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yo.
But that's how I started. And then by the end of university, I changed to like what's called a comprehensive degree. So it was a lot more mixing and matching different musical interests. So some music history, some music theory, some composition stuff, a bit of everything.
Okay. That's fantastic. I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of a comprehensive degree, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is
Um,
cool. Yeah.
that's awesome. And so how okay, so let's go back. You're starting piano.
Mhm.
What started to get you interested in other instruments, and then like how long at what age did you pick up like your second instrument,
Yeah, yeah.
let's say?
Yeah, I got all kinds of fun stories with this
This
whole
is
thing.
great, dude. I love
Um,
this stuff. This is
so
what I'm all about.
so I played pretty much only piano. I mean, like in our school, like in my elementary school, we learned like recorder, but like it's hardly, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember that. I did that. Yeah.
yeah. So a little bit of that, but I wasn't as engaged with that, right? But in grade 7, I we started. That's when at my school we started band classes, and
Mm.
we got to choose our instrument, right? So I chose the trumpet because I thought it was just like really cool. It's like really loud.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a fun instrument to play, right? But I have like really big lips. So on the little mouthpiece, like on a trumpet,
Hmm.
I don't have one here, but on a trumpet mouthpiece, like it's very small, right? So
Hmm.
like I couldn't make a very good sound with it.
Yeah.
So the euphonium, the baby tuba, was a similar instrument, right? It's still a brass
Mm.
instrument. It has like the valves and everything, but the mouthpiece was
Hmm.
a lot bigger, and my tone, my sound was way better right off the bat. So my teacher is like,
Whoa.
you can like push through and like learn trumpet, or you can like pick up euphonium or a baritone is another name for it pretty quickly.
That's cool. That's a good teacher too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's my
To
mentor, like to this day. Shout out Mr.
help
Alonso.
you.
But yeah, so that's kind of how I went from trumpet and then to euphonium, and then from there I just would like other kids in my class. I would be like, hey, can I try your whatever your saxophone out for a week and just start playing? And yeah, as soon as you
Yeah.
learn like one instrument and then another, they come like faster and faster, like languages, you know. So 27 sounds
Mm.
impressive, but
So yeah, you start.
realistically, it's not that hard to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can say that. I understand where you're coming from, and also at
Yeah,
the same time, it's like for somebody who hasn't done it, it's like, wow, it is impressive.
yeah, fair enough,
It's
fair
good,
enough.
and well, and the desire to keep going. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
that's an intriguing desire because so many people are like learn one instrument and then like, oh, I'm good. Like
yeah,
that's it. So like
100%.
so want to keep going is great. So um now I want to know, like, would you list them? Like,
Oh
is that
God.
is that
Okay.
annoying?
Okay. I don't know if I could do it off the top. I used to have it like
That's all
memorized,
right.
so that wouldn't be
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, no, that's all
But
right. If you can't, that's okay.
yeah, here the other trick is that a lot of them are very similar, right? So like in the brass family, we have like trumpet,
Mm.
trombone, euphonium or baritone, tenor horn, tuba, sousaphone. Like that's 6 right off the bat that are all played fairly similarly. And then you go to like woodwind
Cool.
instruments like
Okay.
clarinet, alto, tenor, soprano, and baritone saxophone. Like those are all very similar. Bass clarinet as well. So that's 7 right there that are all very similar, right? So
Wow.
kind of like when you talk about languages, it's the same thing. Like depending on like the roots or like the
The
etymology
region.
of those
Hmm.
languages, like some are very similar, and it makes it a lot easier to pick up. So yeah,
Man,
right
that's
now
inspiring.
I don't play it yet, but I want to learn cello. So I just picked up a cello. My friend actually lent it to me. So
Wow.
the string family is the next that I'm getting
Mm.
into.
Fantastic, dude. I'm looking forward to hearing you play cello. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, sure.
Very cool.
It'll be a while still.
So yeah, yeah, no doubt. okay, so you go through university, you end up doing the comprehensive thing, which I think is hella smart, by the way, because like you said, you get to dabble in a little bit of everything. You know, I think I'm most intrigued personally by composition, just
Mm.
because like as a degree program, it just seems so vast. Like composition itself, it's just like almost infinite. The things that you could learn, you know,
Yeah.
and so to be able to study so many different things, and then you get out of school, you do a year at Apple, you're like, okay, this is obviously not my passion. This is not what I'm on this earth for.
Hmm.
So in your head, in your mind at that point, what's your vision? What's your, when you leave Apple and you're thinking to yourself, like, okay, I'm going to do music full time. What's your vision or how you want it to go? And
Hmm.
well, and how long has it been since working at Apple and you said that's what I'm doing full time music?
You clipped out at the end of that, but I think I pieced it together.
Okay.
It was like
So
when sorry, just what was that last sentence you said?
yeah, so I say so yeah, how long has it been since you were working at
Since I left
Apple
Apple.
and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did just decided to do full time music?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's been
Um,
3 years now. So when
okay.
I graduated, that next year I worked at Apple. And before going to Apple, I said like I would
Mhm.
do 1 year. Because when you leave university with a music degree, it's very confusing. So like there's not a lot of
Mm.
direction in terms
Can you
of
talk
like
about that a little bit?
yeah, for sure, for sure. So
Yeah.
it's especially at U of T. And can be a good thing and a
Hmm.
bad thing, but it's very insular. So a lot of the musicians that you're like I always tell people if you're getting a music degree, it's not about actually like learning music. It's about creating networks and like associating with peers that you're going to be working with and building careers with in the future, right? So um,
Mm.
at U
Mm.
of T, a lot of the friends I made and the people I worked with in school didn't end up actually chasing music careers. Um, so I didn't really have a whole lot of connections leaving university, and I didn't have like really an understanding of how to build a career in music. So I was a little bit lost. So I
Mm.
went to Apple, and there's a position at Apple called creative, and you get to do these little work sessions, and you're like, how to produce beats on your iPad, stuff like that. And like it was somewhat music. It wasn't exactly what I
Hmm.
wanted, but it was something kind of musical and something kind of creative. So it was good. Like don't get me wrong, I didn't hate it or
Hmm.
anything, but it wasn't like it didn't like
Sure.
quite scratch that itch for me. So I was like, okay, I'll do 1 year here, see if I can make a career of this. If not, we're just doing music no matter what it takes. And that's what I did. I did a year there. It was
Oh.
good. It wasn't, I don't have any complaints about it, but um, aside from like, I don't know, it was a long commute. So I was working like 8 hour shifts plus like 2 hour bus ride to and from, and yeah, that was kind of shit. But
Whoa.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot. But yeah, by the end of the year, I was like, okay, we're just gonna do music full time and just put everything into it and hope for the best. And that's what I did. And yeah, here we are.
Right on. Heck yeah, dude. So then yeah, when you left, kind of what's your ultimate vision
Oh
of,
yeah.
how you want it to go? And, what are the things that you tend to focus more on as far as, production or writing or live performances, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So when I left, again, I was still not entirely sure, but I knew it had to be music. Um, so I think the easiest way into that for me at the time was production, right? Producing for other artists,
Mm-hmm.
just picking up random tracks here and there. And yeah, it was very like it was not very professional. I had
Sure.
a studio in my bedroom, and I just produced everything off a laptop and had um, yeah, I had like a microphone and a laptop, and that was it.
Mm.
And I would get like kind of what you were talking about earlier, like people who are like entirely new to music, and we're just like, I want to just see what it's like to make a song, like birthday song for my mom, or like
Mm.
just this song that I made when I was like whatever a little kid, and I want to actually like put it down somewhere, that kind of thing. So I'd work
Sure.
with just like, local artists, just like word of mouth. And I was at least like barely able to pay rent with that. And then
Still.
yeah, and it was like something, and I was like, okay, I can survive doing this. That's like step one. And then it was
Yo.
just like, how do I build from there? So yeah, like the ideal now, I mean, yeah, when I left Apple, it was literally just like, okay, figure out by any means necessary, how do I make music and get by, pay rent, buy
Mm,
groceries, that kind of stuff.
yep.
Now it's a little more, I guess, nuanced, I guess. I'm
Mhm.
very like project oriented. So I have like kind of like a checklist of things that I want to do in my lifetime. Um,
Mm,
and I want to kind of like orient the direction I do take my musical projects around that and being able to accomplish that. So like for one thing, I have like an album series, this like musical universe that I want to create. And that's what I'm working on right now. I'm also working with a band called The New People. I'm sort of a co-founder, artistic director sort of thing. And we talk
mm.
about like emotional learning, mental wellness, and connect it back to music and playing musical games with young kids. And
Nice.
that's very like fulfilling. But yeah, I think
Hmm.
in general, like I just kind of orient myself to like projects that excite me, things that I find interesting, or things like that I find fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, man. That's a beautiful
Thanks.
story. It really is because it's what makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like to be able to focus on the things that you're good at, the things that you like to do, and then to start to be able, to pay your bills with that,
Hmm.
like that's and beyond, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So and then so what would you say, like looking down the road, first of all, I want to hear, I, let's talk about down the road in a minute. I want to hear about this
Sure.
musical universe
Oh yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you know how there's like the Marvel universe, and it started out they just wanted to do like a couple superhero movies, and then everything sort of like ended up intertwining, and now it's super saturated in like all of like
It's
theater.
like every,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Okay, so imagine that now on
Hmm.
like a 1 millionth the size, like way less budget, way
Sure.
less scale, but that same idea. So I
Okay,
I
infiltrating from multiple angles.
Yeah, so basically like I made this artist persona called CxViolet, and that's like who you reached out to when we started off
Hmm.
this interview, right?
Hmm.
And CxViolet is basically the narrator. And so as I release music, be it singles, EPs, albums, they're gonna tell different stories of different characters. So
Oh.
in mid-September we have our first character, and he's called Hackerboy, and it's very small. There's barely like it's just an introduction, right?
Sure.
And
Okay.
so anyways, Hackerboy is more or less just like more or less it's just a love story. But then later on he's going to meet other characters, and in different songs these characters are going to share their stories or relate back. And basically it's just interweaving all these characters and all these narratives across songs, EPs, albums. And yeah, just creating like this musical universe of all these characters. Now the catch is the characters are all fictional, of course, but
Hmm.
I want them each to represent like a different faculty of like the lived experience, right? So it is fictional, but I want it to touch on like real themes of like mental health, like what I do with the new people,
Hmm.
themes of like isolation, which I think is like obviously very prescient right now, themes of whatever it is.
Hmm.
You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying though, right? Like I want to
Sure.
touch down on
Sure.
like real topics, but use these fictional characters to kind of like tell those stories.
Dude,
I
I'm
hope that
I'm
makes
blown
sense. I
away. I'm
rambled
I'm
I
like,
rambled a
I
lot, but
no, no, this is so cool. Like, I gotta be honest, like I didn't know enough about you, like when I got on this interview,
yeah,
and like
listen, you're
didn't,
you're you're first to it. This is all very new, right? I haven't even
dude.
released like my first independent single yet, so you're
Yeah.
you're getting
Well,
early doors to all this.
I'm so glad because like in freaking 10 years, I'm gonna be like, I got the first interview.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're the first CxViolet interview, so congrats.
Thank you. No, that's awesome. I mean, but like really, it's like, quite, it's an amazing idea. It's very intriguing. And yeah, I just anyway, going into this interview, I didn't know necessarily what to expect, and so
Sure.
I'm just pleasantly just delighted, and thankful for your time and your energy and your sharing, these ideas and what you're doing, because it's, to our community, it's very inspiring. To me, it's very inspiring, and so I just appreciate it. I appreciate your art. I appreciate your thought process, your creativity. That's kick ass, dude. That sounds so cool. I'm looking forward to diving into the musical universe of CxViolet. That is,
I really appreciate that.
yeah, for sure. Like, and the way that you described it with the Marvel universe was a great analogy. My wife a lot of times talks about, like, if they like, when we're watching a movie, she always is like, what if they made it, from this character's perspective, or what if they did it from this character, and so, but then you saying, talking about, pressing subjects or things that are important to you and telling the story through these characters, just adds that whole nother layer of passion and purpose to it, so that people can glean even more than just entertainment, and get real life lessons out of it. And I just, that's freaking awesome, dude. Really great intention, like really neat.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay. And so that's what my next question was going to be, is kind of like, okay, what does the future hold, for Caleb and, CxViolet, of course, but, kind of 5 years, 10 years, down the road, what do you hope for? What are your, aspirations, and, kind of how do you want it to play out?
I mean, this is an ongoing conversation. Like, everyone in my inner circle knows that this is like, there is not a singular trajectory. There's an entire web of ideas and things that might pan out, things that might not. Again, I'm very like project, or like, to be honest, I'm very like accomplishment oriented. So like, I want to release like this album or this EP, etc., etc. So a whole bunch of music for sure. I probably, like, in my lifetime, I hope to release, I don't want to give it a number, but many songs, right?
Sure.
But there's also like artists that I want to one day work with. And then there's things outside of music even. Like, I'm writing a screenplay right now, and to see that come to life one day would be amazing. Now, that's not happening anytime soon. I don't have the budget nor the connections to make that happen yet. But in my lifetime, or in the next 10 years, yeah, I'd like to see that screenplay come to life. I'm writing a ballet that I would love to, like, I think ballet is oftentimes like it's outdated in a lot of ways. And I would love to bring like sort of like modern entertainment and modern like media format to the world of ballet, and work with people in that space that are more familiar with ballet than I am, and collaborate there. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, we're working on a musical with the New People band. We're working on a musical right now. We want to bring it to theaters, and kind of the same idea, like, just modernize these like sort of antiquated, sometimes antiquated spaces, and make it like interesting for young folks, and bring something like meaningful to the table, I guess. So yeah, it's like, I realize as I talk, like, it sounds very just like way out there. Like, my aspirations are
Honestly, no, it doesn't, man. It's
sorry, I missed
me,
that. I missed that last part. I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi is terrible.
No, it doesn't sound far out, man. It sounds legit to me. I mean, I see it in you. I understand like exactly where you're coming from. And that's how it's been for me too. Like, some of the things that I've, gone to tackle, or ideas that I've had, a lot of times to other people, it just seemed like, man, this is crazy,
Yeah.
but like, I've seen things like that come to fruition also, and so, that's like, it doesn't seem far out. It's like right on, man. It's cool. Yeah, definitely. Right. That's really cool. Just like maybe one or two other quick questions. Sure. Would you have any other sort of advice for people who are just starting out,
Mm.
who, maybe they've just picked up an instrument, or maybe they're starting to post some videos on social, or, they're just kind of like dabbling a little bit and maybe wondering like, whoa, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? Like, what would
Yeah.
you say to somebody who's like, how do I get started?
Okay. Yeah, the first thing, and I tell everyone this, like with learning an instrument, with starting like anything new really, the most important thing is to develop a curiosity for it. Because if you're not
Mm,
genuinely interested, then it's not gonna, you could have the best teacher in the world. It's not gonna matter if you're not curious, if you don't want to like actively want to spend the time and put the time into it, it's not going to matter. So have a curiosity for it, have an interest for it, and make it like in that vein, make it fun, right? Like, especially if you're learning an instrument. I hate when I see teachers like first day of lesson, like put down the sheet music in front of them. Okay, we're going to play scales now. Like, make
mm,
it an enjoyable experience. Share some music that you like hearing. If you want to learn guitar, for example, right? What are some guitar songs you really like? What do you like
mm.
about it? And then just like mess around, try and recreate what you're hearing. You're gonna not be able to do it obviously because you're new to it, but just experiment, have fun, play. That's the most important foundation. And then once you develop that curiosity for it, then you can start reaching out. Okay, how are some ways that I can actually technically improve now? Well, maybe then you go to like learning scales and this kind of thing. Um, you know what I mean? Like you,
Yes,
you start
yes,
with
that's
enjoying
great.
it and then
Yeah,
you build
yeah.
from there.
No, that's fantastic advice, man. That's very good. Well put. Very well
Mm,
put. And then the last thing I was going to say is what, who are some of your, your main influences? Who are some people that maybe you
mm,
used to listen to a lot, or you started listening to, and then, maybe some people you listen to now. And then like I remember you mentioned, there's some people who you want to, do projects with. I'd love to
mm.
hear about that too, if you felt like you would share that.
Sure, sure. You know when someone hands you like the aux cable in a car and like before they hand it to you, you're
Yeah.
like, I know every song I love. And then they hand it to you and you're like, oh, I don't know any music at all. Um, I always feel that
Totally.
way. But no, okay, let's see. Some artists that just in general I find very inspiring. Well, for this CxViolet project specifically, I can talk to some of my inspirations there.
Hmm.
There's this producer named Igloo Ghost who
Okay.
he uh they have like this whole like musical like their music doesn't even have like actual words. Like they made their own language for it. And
Yo.
in terms of like the universe building, world building thing, I think like when I heard that and when I saw that, there was like a little seed planted. And then a few years later, I came up with the whole CX pilot idea. So there's some inspiration there for sure.
Mm,
There's some artists that I look up to. I really like. James Blake is a big one.
mm,
There's actually a lot of hip hop art. I really in my music isn't entirely hip hop, but I am
mhm,
listening wise. I listen to and producing for other artists. Oftentimes is hip hop.
mhm.
Kendrick Lamar is I think one of like the greatest rappers of all time.
Yeah.
Um, Outkast it was really
Hmm.
big for me. Yeah, I think Andre 3000 is just like a very creative, eccentric dude, and yeah,
Yeah.
I have
No
mad
doubt.
respect for him. Um, I think right now, some artists I'm listening to Joji. I did like a cover. He has this tune "Glimpse of Us." I did like a cover of that a while back, and yeah, that was pretty cool. I like him.
Awesome. Awesome.
Um, yeah, sorry, it's hard to come up with it on the spot.
No,
I'm
no, that's
I'm
cool.
gonna
That's
leave this
that's
interview and be like, oh my God, I forgot like all my
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
favorite artists, but it's okay.
I get it, man. I
It is
get
what
it.
it is.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Well, hey, man. I mean, I am just so thankful to know you. I'm thankful that I got to do this interview, and that it wasn't somebody else on the team, So,
Yeah, I really
I
appreciate it. What
yeah.
do you mind if I just ask you? I know you're probably busy. Just a quick
Y-
question.
no, please, yeah,
What's
please.
like what is your role? Like I got the message through SongMe, right? That's like
Hmm. Hmm.
the app. Like
Yeah.
what's your role there? Like how did all of
Oh,
this come
so
together?
I'm the original founder actually of
Oh,
SongMe.
right on. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I
okay.
created the original app, and I then partnered. Actually, it's funny. I'll give you a little background. So, and that's what I mean with things seeming far out, because when you start telling people that you want to create a mobile app, you know, for live music, like they look at you like you got two heads, you know, like, yeah, right. You know, and so, you know, I actually found, on one of my latest posts, I found a doodle that I did of the app in like 2018, you know, and it just like blew me away at like, you know, what's happening now, like with our developers and like just where we're at, because, you know, in 4 years, it's just been, I mean, it's a real thing now, you know? Yeah, yeah. So, I started the idea. I started out, mainly in the live music scene, you know, so I play all request piano shows. And so I did that in, you know, Las Vegas and on cruise ships, and I spent 15 years, you know, and I still do that. I still do those shows. So that came from people once COVID came along, and like nobody's carrying cash, you know, and when you're playing all request shows, even though you kind of, to do that gig, you have to know a lot of songs, like off the top of your head. You got to know thousands of songs, you know, so there's a lot of memorization and just a whole lot of different genres that you have to know and things like that, because people want to hear it, but it's mainly all hits, you know, so you're just listening to hit music and learning it. Well, there are still, you know, probably 10, and that can be really awkward, you know, when somebody brings you up a song request and they're like, yo, and you're like, dang, I don't know it. Like, you know, like, and it could be, it might be like a B-side.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and so it's like, dang. So the idea for SongMe was build playlists of music that you know, and you give your audience a menu to request songs for your show in real time.
Right.
So that, you know, you don't ever have to worry about like, and it, like, you can mix it in. Like, if you want to get random requests, you can, you know, you can allow that, or you can not, if you just want to play the songs that you know. But the idea is to bring in to the average musical live music experience, bring in this idea of getting requests and having it, instead of having it be taboo and the musician being like, whatever, I don't know your song, or I don't want to play requests, or whatever the usual response is, because most musicians don't do all request shows, you know, but to give the audience that experience with songs that the musician knows, and then the audience can attach a digital tip to that song, you know. So cool. The musicians, you know, can, you know, wind up making like $200 or $300 extra dollars, you know, or can, you know, during like a few hour gig, because everybody's sending in song requests and putting in tips.
Right.
And so like when I was playing in Vegas, you know, we would make like thousands of dollars in cash from song requests. And I was just thinking to myself, like, if we could help other musicians make this kind of money, you know, like, and the way to do that is to get them to be able to allow them to take song requests, but with songs that they know already, you know, so that they don't have to know like a whole bunch of songs to get started. And so that's where the idea came from. And so I partnered with my brother-in-law on accident, honestly. Like, my wife and I were visiting family. My brother-in-law is a IT guy. He's not really like a software developer, but I kept like bugging him, like, do you know any software developers? Like, I want to do this app. And, you know, he was like, no, I don't know anybody. So finally, I just did it on my own. I just went out and found a developer on my own and got it started. And then, like, you know, after I had, you know, kind of put him off, you know, years went by, and I came to visit family, and he's like, so what, you know, what's up with you? What are you doing? You know? And I'm like, well, I'm like building this app, dude. And it's like legit. And he's an EDM guy. And he loves going to like festivals, and he loves DJs. And he's like, man, as an audience member, I would love to be able to like scroll through like playlists for the DJs and like put in song requests.
Yeah, when I first got the message from y'all, I obviously I checked out the website, right? And and yeah, that was my first thought, is like, especially as DJing, like I don't DJ that much myself, but a lot of my close musical friends do DJ, and you know, I'll go to gigs with them, and oftentimes exactly what you're saying, like someone will come up to the DJ booth and be like, hey man, can you play this? Can you play this? Can you play this? And like, oftentimes it's just like no, I don't have it on my laptop. Like, I'm not just
Yes.
gonna pull up YouTube mid gig like to get your song out, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, having like that list and like allowing people to select like from the audience, select what they want to hear. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that just like yeah, I get it. I get it.
I appreciate that, because we're still in that weird phase right now as a company where like some people get it, some people don't, and like,
Yeah.
so, we're moving through, and really like a lot of these interviews, like it it doesn't necessarily have to relate to the app, because the mission of the company in general is just to support musicians in whatever way. And I mean,
Cool.
we're doing that in a lot of ways besides the app. Like, we offer like health insurance for musicians, and like we
Oh,
do
okay.
all kinds of like stuff that's different from the app, but it started with the app. And so I appreciate that you get it, that you can see the value there, because like sometimes you talk to people and they're like, nah, man, I don't, whatever, like it doesn't make
Yeah, yeah.
sense, or whatever, so,
Sure.
and so that, yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. We're just branching out, and, you know, just trying to spread the word, honestly, that like, not only from an income perspective, but from just a show perspective, like giving your audience that experience,
Mm-hmm.
that, it just makes a big difference in the show, and in the audience experience, and then, and eventually in the bottom line, when you walk out the door, it's like, you got a few $100 in your pocket
Right.
just from requests, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I appreciate you asking. So
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
like I got with my brother-in-law. He got excited about it because he's an audience member, and
Mm-hmm.
so he goes to all these, DJ events and festivals and stuff. He's like, man, I want to use this at festivals.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just like jumped in full force. He was my first investor, and then he and I worked together for the next year, like developing a business plan, and then pitching to all of our close family and friends, to get our initial funding round. And then we did that, and then we put that into like our round of development,
Mm-hmm.
and built up the app enough to pitch to like real investors.
Right.
And then we pitched to real investors, and they like we had a group sign on with us, which was amazing. Right when they signed on, the company that we were working with, like the app was like totally bugging out and wasn't working. And
Mm-hmm.
so we signed the deal with this, in like basically an advisory group, but they
Mm-hmm.
were helping us get investors. And right when we signed that deal, like basically a month later, we realized we have to rebuild the app completely from scratch.
Oh,
And
dang.
so, well, yeah, we had spent like 2 years developing, and then we had to start the whole project over. And now, it's like 4 years in, and it's coming together,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
so
Hey man, I
yeah,
mean that sucks, but also like 4 years to get an app like up and running off the ground is you're you're doing well. Like
yeah.
you're
Thanks.
making good
Yeah,
time.
and yeah. Now people are using it too, which is cool to see. Like, I've met just from social media. Like, I do a lot of social media, and more so than like posting, I just like reach out to people and like connect. And
Right.
I love connecting with musicians, and now it's cool to see like some people that I've never even met, in person, but they're on social, and I've met them, like they're using the app and they're making money from it, and they're like
Mm-hmm.
hitting me back like, yo, I just made like $100 on SongMe. I'm like, yeah, like that to
Yeah,
me
yeah. Cool.
that's what I wanted to see,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah.
All right. Right on,
So
man. Well, congrats.
yeah.
Congrats on the
Thanks,
app.
man.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, and I appreciate you doing the interview. I hope we get to keep in touch. I'm really inspired by you, man.
Sure.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really thankful that, like I said, sometimes we have like different team members doing these calls,
Yeah.
and they're like, Joshua, like, can you take this call? I was like, yeah, no problem. And then like, I'm so glad it was me,
Right
because
on.
I would love to just continue to keep in touch with you, and
That's awesome.
hear about how your stuff is going, man.
For sure.
Awesome.
Sounds
It
good,
was a
man.
pleasure meeting you, Caleb.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot
Really
for doing the
yeah,
interview.
I really enjoyed the conversation. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do it again, man. We'll do it again
Sure.
sometime, and just continue to update each other, man. I
Cool.
really appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds good, man.
Awesome.
Have a
All
good
right,
one.
take care.